And this is just an update on where we are with the public safety camera system. Good afternoon, Commissioners. Al Ells, Assistant Chief of the North Bureau. And what we're talking about today is really technology that is going to help us do a better job and be more effective and a force multiplier when it comes to doing policing. Obviously, this system is designed as a system for prevention, identification and apprehension, and prosecution of criminal acts as we identify them. I think some recent events, such as the Times Square attempted bombing, really underscore the value of this type of technology and what it can achieve when done appropriately and when done right. The system here in Austin will be very overt. These are overt cameras that we intend to use. That means they will be obvious to those that are in the area where these surveillance public safety cameras are. The cameras are going to be recording 24 hours a day, 7 days a week. And we're currently looking at approximately 26 cameras in this initial phase. For data storage, first and foremost, we're going to store the data at our Emergency Communications Center, CTEC. Our policy will include a 10-day retention of video data with automatic purging of information after the 10 days. We are putting within our policy random audits, quarterly audits of camera activities and procedures that will be conducted by our inspections unit under our professional standards division. These will be random, although they will be required every quarter, and they will be reviewing how these cameras are used specifically and whether those that are using them are following policy as we expect. Speaking of our privacy policy, we're going to have a clear privacy policy statement regarding the appropriate use and misuse of this technology.
I have a couple of questions. So basically, a word camera, that might deter crime. However, people would adjust to it, criminals, and do you think that's beating the purpose? We should hide the cameras where they wouldn't know the cameras are there, and if they're trying to do something.
Well, I think that's really a position the department's taken, certainly from the chief on, that this is, you know, our hope is really to help reduce crime in areas first and foremost. We do believe that it'll assist, as it has been demonstrated in other places, in capturing physical evidence of crimes and allow for a better prosecution. But if we can keep something from happening, if we can keep a crime from occurring, then I think we've been successful.
There are basically three general criteria that indicates where these cameras will go. The three criteria include analysis, in other words, analysis of crime data. In other words, if there's a developing hotspot or there's a history of some kind of crime issue. Number two is you have, a substantial amount of people that are in their crowds or something along that nature. And three is the issue of community requests and or support. In particular, in the Rundberg area, there were some early on meetings with the Rundberg Neighborhood Association regarding the issue of cameras, and we received a lot of positive feedback there, as well as also we can say that the downtown area business community and the residential community has expressed a great deal of interest as well. So those are the two primary areas that we're starting with.
Good afternoon, Commissioners. My name is Bill Bryce. I'm a Program Director with Downtown Austin Alliance. Austin has been very fortunate for many years. As many of you probably know, we've been ranked the 5th safest city in the United States of cities with populations of 500,000 people or more. We are also in downtown the safest or second safest police sector in the city. And in order for us to maintain our level of safety that we so enjoy here in our city and in downtown, Downtown Austin Alliance and its membership believes that it's critically important to employ the highest and best technology available as part of our overall policing strategy.
Mr. Chairman, Commissioners, my name is John Goldstone. I'm a property owner that may be within the sweep of the public safety cameras, surveillance cameras proposed for downtown. On February 4th, 2010, I gave a citizen communication speech to City Council regarding the proposed cameras at 12th and Chicon. Due to our loud objections, we got APD to temporarily throw the cameras upon unsuspecting residents downtown and at Rundberg. The problems with the cameras have not gone away. Leading up to February 4th, I had been in contact with Commander Gay and several council members. I angrily asked questions for which no one had any answers. Following such non-answers, I realized that a disaster was about to happen for which the City of Austin would have substantial monetary liability. I assume that you're trying to gauge community input on this issue. Community input would have to include every single property owner, resident, and tenant within any within any surveillance camera sweep, and not your normal neighborhood contact planning team, or for that matter, any neighborhood group that would be outside of that sweep. Commander Gay and the APD have not answered where the cameras will be located, what will be the extent of their sweep, how strong the lenses will be, 10,000 to 1 like in London or on the Mansfield Dam, who will have access to the streams and recordings, anyone in APD or the Fusion Center who signs in, whether they will be monitored and by whom. APD has now contradicted itself on this issue, and on what basis the recordings, if any, will be kept for the 10 days or longer. Did NYPD destroy the Times Square recordings after 10 days? How can any commission possibly make an informed decision or recommendation regarding placing these highly intrusive cameras in residential areas without the answers to these questions? How do you get community input until you determine the community that is affected? Since we don't have the answer to any of these key questions, we can't actually determine the community from which we want input. It is then impossible, let me say it again, impossible for any commissioner or individual to vote, suggest, or presume to recommend these cameras at downtown locations, Runberg Lane, or any other location. The bottom line is there is no valid community input on this issue at this time. Following my citizen communication, I was cornered by several APD officers who verbally assured me that my concerns were unjustified, and I should have no worries as APD will have mechanisms in place, which we heard about today, vague ones, to make sure there would not be a repeat of the type of disaster that had 2 FBI agents viewing recordings from a private mall security camera of girls changing into prom dresses in West Virginia. I've attached a copy of that clipping for your reading enjoyment. We've seen what fail-safe mechanisms mean in the Gulf of Mexico and a resulting oil spill catastrophe that will be far worse than ever seen before. Vague assurances of fail-safe and another oversight board by the APD does not convince me that the City of Austin has the right to impose these privacy-intruding cameras on anyone, since the data cannot be protected with today's technology. What right does APD or this commission have to consent to this personal intrusion on my behalf? My outrage is that this is not a zoning or land use case. Is the ultimate intrusion, the ultimate taking, the taking of me, and the intrusion into my bedroom, bathroom, living room, my property. How dare you presume to give up my sacred and constitutional right to privacy to APD and the Fusion Center without a search warrant? Please remember, and contrary to the chief's assertion, the Times Square bomber was caught by a T-shirt vendor and a cop on a horse, and then detective work looking at the VIN number of the car, not by any cameras. We saw it later. You need to wait for the policy that has been suggested by the chief to make any recommendations, and I am definitely going to be taking a look at that.
I was going to get up and just give you a list of a bunch of different studies that say that public safety cameras are ineffective, but anybody could do that. I could be countered with the same amount of list of studies that have been, skewed in a different way. Everybody has a certain bias. So I decided to grab, the COPS, Community-Oriented Policing Services. This is their own document here. Video surveillance of public places. In the back, there's 2 appendixes, and they go over 30 different studies. I went through and saw which ones actually pointed to a significant reduction in instances of crime. Out of the 30 studies, 2 were inconclusive, 16 reported no conclusive reduction in crime, and only 12 reported there's a reduction in crime, statistically significant. So to begin with, these public safety cameras haven't even been proven to be effective, and you're about to lay them down on us here in the city of Austin. Not to mention a lot of the other tactics like intelligence-led policing. That's a completely new phenomenon. It hasn't been proven yet we still see through the federal government and other interests that are pushing that upon us. One thing I want to point out, in Great Britain, they lead the way for surveillance cameras. Here's an article that just came out on the 4th of June. Surveillance cameras in Birmingham track Muslims' every move. Police said the initiative codenamed Project Champion is the first of its kind in the UK that seeks to monitor a population seen as at risk of extremism. Well, we also have the United States, the Department of Homeland Security, again, who's involved in all this Fusion Center nonsense. They put out a document, Right-Wing Extremism, Current Economic and Political Climate Fueling Resurgence. I've pointed to it many times before, but their definition of right-wing extremism is those groups that are mainly anti-government, rejecting federal authority in favor of state or local authority, which is almost the mission statement of Texans for Accountable Government. So the next question is, are they monitoring and surveilling these right-wing terrorists? Here's the Bureau of Justice Assistance and the Department of Justice. Undercover operations targeting right-wing terrorist groups. They go on to say, could we ever use these surveillance cameras for this type of surveillance? Well, in another document, the Bureau of Justice State and Local Terrorism Reference Manual, it's all about surveillance. It's about 20 pages. They say how to conduct surveillance when manpower is not available. When local, county, state, and federal agencies work together on a case, there will be sufficient manpower and resources to conduct quality surveillance. they go on to say the use of video cameras can reduce the number of investigators needed to conduct surveillance. A closed-circuit television system can function as a fixed lookout in combination surveillance. Also, they say how you can use surveillance photography. Again, some teams even use closed-circuit television systems in combination surveillances. So basically what you guys are doing right now is creating the future. It's going to be 26 cameras. Eventually, it's going to be more. I imagine that London is the proving ground. So while you right now may have the best interest and the best intent, again, the federal government, through documents like their right-wing extremism, they consider me a right-wing extremist. Who's to know what they're going to use in the future? So again, before we move forward, especially since we haven't seen the policies that are yet to be drawn up on this, I strongly recommend you don't recommend moving forward to the council for all the various reasons I've just gone over. Thank you.
I have a,
Mr. Bush, Commissioner has a question.
I just have one question.